2016,
yes,
right before they hired Kyle Shanahan. This is from Jed Yorks, owner and CEO of the San Francisco 49ers. And he was asked a question after, I think it was the 2-14 season, right?
Oh, debacle.
Does he deserve to still keep the team?
Wow.
Does he deserve to be the owner of the San Francisco 49ers? And at the time, I'm pretty sure he's got killed for this. But now looking ahead into 2024 with his team being in the second Super Bowl in 5 years, 4 straight NFC championship games, or 3 straight NFC championships games, 4 in 5 years, now might be looking a little bit differently. Here's what he had to say back in the day.
We haven't accomplished enough. I own this football team. You don't dismiss owners. I'm sorry that that's the facts and that's the case, but that's the fact. And I'm going to do everything that I can to get this right. This isn't about a business and running an operation to make money. We're making sure that we're doing everything that we can to reestablish this culture.
So that was him responding to a reporter asking him if he deserved to keep the team or if he should be dismissed as the owner.
Right. And he let you know.
That's a ballsy question.
No, no doubt. I believe, no doubt about it. And what a hell of an answer. I mean, and he stood there, said it with his chest, and then look what's happened since. Evan, he's backed away, talking about York, and it's time he get his credit.
And that's the thing, too. I know that owners, look, I mean, he was never going to go anywhere. Owners, you don't just vote an owner out. I guess if you're the Green Bay Packers, you're publicly owned, so that might be a little different story.
Jerry would be out of Dallas if they could get him.
You think so?
Oh, good God. Well, dude, he can draft, but the whole thing, he's in his own way, I believe. And fans would be like, you know what, step aside.
To digress for a moment, the Dallas Cowboys are the number one valued franchise of any sports entity, I believe, in the world.
Right, and they were...
that is Jerry Jones doing.
No doubt, but they were the Dallas Cowboys before Jerry showed up too, Evan. But now the Times, sign of the Times, things have gotten... the world's different, the internet, so I get that, and I give Jerry credit for that. But I'm just talking about meddling. I'm talking about hiring a GM and delegating those duties to somebody, and you just be owner. And I believe York learned from the Harbaugh, whatever went on, and he's kind of just backed out the way. And I hadn't heard that, or I didn't remember that soundbite. And now look at his team. This is their second Super Bowl, chance at the Super Bowl under Kyle and the NFC Championship games. My point is, Evan, we don't hear much from him.
Jed Yorks.
And that takes a lot of wherewithal to be like, you know what, I'm going to empower the guys that I have and let Lynch do his job and let Kyle do his job. I'm not trying to do a press conference after the game and say something where people are listening to me more than the coach. I'm kind of staying in my lane as an owner.
Yeah, and
that's what I appreciate.
Again, this is Jed Yorks from 2016. A lot of people, I think, define this comment as defiant and kind of off a 2-14 season. Well, why are you talking like that? Like, why are you talking like you still deserve to be the person who's pulling all the strings and someone who's meddling and involved when you're an owner that right now owns a historic franchise that is not doing very well? He was asked about in 2016 if he should be dismissed.
We haven't accomplished enough. I own this football team. You don't dismiss owners. I'm sorry that that's the facts and that's the case, but that's the fact. And I'm going to do everything that I can to get this right. This isn't about a business and running an operation to make money. We're making sure that we're doing everything that we can to reestablish this culture.
And since that happened, Goo, he has been a man of his word. Like, he's spent money and put his money where his mouth is. I know that there's a salary cap in football, but you look at paying signing bonuses up front, handing dollars out of your pockets in order to satisfy the cap requirements, things that he does behind the scenes as far as something like last year when the 49ers were on, I think it was a month-long or 3-week-long road trip, being willing to pay extra money out of his pocket so his team could stay in West Virginia in the time zone so they wouldn't have to deal with their bodies going back and forth and getting more rest. Those are all things that fly under the radar that an owner like Jed Yorks, to his credit, because he's not been in the limelight as of late, he's not as much like Joe Lacob as he is like other behind-the-scenes owners, but it doesn't mean that he hasn't done what he just mentioned, which is trying to get this thing right and putting his money where his mouth is.
No doubt. And I think that was great timing that we played that. And also, too, Evan, backing up Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch when they wanted to make the move and spend the capital to go get Trey Lance. Obviously, if he disagreed with that, he could have vetoed it, but he didn't. He let them go do that. Obviously, it didn't work out. They got Brock Purdy, but I got to be careful here. You brought up Joe Lacob. could I mirror that sound to when Joe Lacob was booed? I know it was kind of different circumstances, but, that came. He said that from a point of like, is the word I'm looking for pride? But when Joe got booed on Chris Mullin, remember that? We're going to hang banners. Yeah. Guess what, Evan? They hang banners.
They did.
And for him I don't know who asked him that question, to say, do you deserve to own the team? Should you kind of, saying that your time is up? And for him to be, stand on business, as they say now, that's what Jed did. And he's kind of just been in the background, and he's come up aces, man. Well,
and you contrast it with, I know that Jed York hasn't always been the most popular owner, and a lot of it, I think, was
winning
because of
class.
Yeah, exactly. And the sort of spat or back and forth with Harbaugh during that time when they were winning. Yeah. It was like people were wondering if it was Jim's team, if it was Jed trying to get his team back, and all the back and forth there, the tussle. But you look at a team that was just sold yesterday, like the Baltimore Orioles, and to take you down kind of a road in baseball, like the Angelos are notoriously cheap. I know their patriarch just passed away. That's why they've sold the team for $2 billion to a different group. Damn. But that team is one that had and does have young star power. They just won 101 games. They made the playoffs for the first time in a long time. It looks like they were on the rise. A change in ownership is good for them because that ownership never demonstrated a want to invest in the team. In fact, they publicly came out and said last year that they're not sure it's financially feasible to keep that young core together. Oof. Those are the kind of things you don't want to hear from owners. So even though Jed York might have been painted in a bad light, even during some of his lesser days, he's never said that there isn't a 49er first mentality. He's never put his own business, to his credit, like in that statement, he's never put his business before the 49er brand. He understands what it's about. In comparison to people in Baltimore who have also been able to, they've done things like trying to, quiet their broadcaster for telling the truth last year, taking him off the air. He got suspended internally by the team. Like, those are things that bad ownership groups do. I know that wins and losses are what dictates how we look at a certain individual, but Jed York, I think, has been maybe unfairly maligned early on, but I think we got to give him credit now for the growth that he's made because he does appear to be a different individual.
No doubt, Evan. Good stuff. And I'll say this, with 11 days before the Super Bowl, I do wonder, before we played that sound, you can let me know on your ends, but Dona can do the same, how much, if not, do you think we would have heard Jed York's name leading up to the Super Bowl had we not played that sound?
Not a lot.
Like, that's just amazing to come up with that. And the job that he's done, the restraint, and you're right, it's never been penny pincher, never, going all in. He's provided the necessary resources for the guys at the helm, the coach, the general manager, to do their thing. And man, I mean, he's 11 days from the bling, possibly.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that the way that Jed York does things is necessarily better than how, for example, Joe Lacob does it. Like, I was watching a clip last night because all the 49ers were in attendance, right?
That was dope.
I mean, Debo, Ayuk, George Kittle was there with his wife. We saw the defensive lineman, Armstead, Kinlaw, Chase Young. I think Logan Ryan must have also been there. There's a lot of big boys in the house. In fact, early in the game, because it was a little sleepy at Chase Center, to be honest, the biggest cheer, the biggest ovation was when George Kittle walked courtside with the Looney jersey on.
Yeah, I saw him.
I mean, it was huge. And I think listening to Lacob after the game, saying we're supporting the 49ers, we're on board, go out and win the Super Bowl. Not all owners are like that, even with their own team. And it doesn't mean that it's the wrong way to do things. It's just two different ways to skin a cat. And Jed York has shown in the last half decade that the way that he operates his business, empowering guys like John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, can also be a quality way to go about trying to win in your respective sport.
Evan, it's to the point now where I just envisioned the ceremony, and I don't want to jinx the Niners, where it's over and the owner is presented the trophy. Like, we could definitely see some emotion because he's been close, Evan. He's had his guts ripped out, with the Baltimore Raven loss. And then also when the Niners losing to the Chiefs, blowing that 10-point lead. So just imagine how, and they all will, I understand, but just imagine York getting that moment if, I don't know who's going to present him the trophy, but if Nance presents him with the trophy, I mean, man, it's just a signature moment for Niner fans and Mr. York.